I'm not paying for your wedding anymore, Natalie. Your brother needs the money more than you do. My mother's voice was calm, almost cheerful, as she delivered the news that shattered my world. We were standing in her living room, surrounded by my family. My father sat silently on the couch, staring at his hands. My brother Tyler leaned against the doorframe with that familiar smirk plastered across his face. I felt my chest tighten as the words sank in. This was money she had promised me since I was 16 years old. Money I had counted on. Money I had planned around. "Mom, you promised," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. She waved her hand dismissively. "Plans change, sweetheart. Tyler has an opportunity that can't wait. You're resourceful. You'll figure something out." The humiliation burned through me like fire. My fiancé Marcus stood beside me, his jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Tyler's smirk widened. My mother turned back to her coffee like she had just commented on the weather, not destroyed months of planning and years of trust. Then she added one final line that cut deeper than the money ever could. "Besides, good daughters don't make their parents choose. My name is Natalie Brooks, and I'm 28 years old, originally from Denver, Colorado. If you want to hear more stories like this one about family drama and sweet revenge, please subscribe to this channel. You won't regret it." Later that afternoon, I went back to my parents' house to pick up some wedding binders I had left behind. I wasn't planning to stay long, but as I approached the kitchen, I heard voices. Tyler was talking to someone on the phone, his voice loud and boastful. "Yeah, man, Mom was never going to pay for that wedding anyway. It was always a test to see if Natalie would cause drama. And guess what? She didn't even fight back." I froze in the hallway, my heart pounding in my ears. "She's always been the easy one," Tyler continued with a laugh. "Mom knew she could pull the money, and Nat would just take it. That's why I'm the favorite. I actually stand up for myself." My hands started shaking. This wasn't about money. It was never about money. It was about control. It was about seeing if I would finally push back or continue playing the role they had assigned me my entire life. The role of the obedient daughter who never caused trouble, never made demands, never fought for herself. I backed away from the kitchen quietly and left the house. But something had shifted inside me. This pattern didn't start today. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the wedding binders spread across my coffee table. My mind drifted back through decades of memories I had tried to ignore. When Tyler failed out of his first college semester, my parents paid for him to attend a different school and bought him a car to rebuild his confidence. When I graduated with honors and a full scholarship, they took me to dinner at a chain restaurant. When Tyler lost his third job in 2 years, they gave him money to start a business that failed within 6 months. When I got my first promotion, my mother told me not to brag because it made Tyler feel bad. Every success I achieved was minimized. Every failure Tyler experienced was excused. I was taught from childhood that good daughters don't ask for things. Good daughters don't complain. Good daughters make things easier for everyone else. The favoritism was so consistent, so deeply woven into our family dynamic, that I had accepted it as normal. But sitting there surrounded by wedding plans I could no longer afford, the pattern became impossible to ignore. I decided not to confront them yet. The next morning, I called my mother back. My voice was calm, defeated even. "You're right, Mom. I'll figure something out. Marcus, and I will just have a smaller wedding." I could hear the relief in her voice. "That's my girl. I knew you'd understand. Family comes first, and Tyler really needs this opportunity." She mistook my calm for surrender. Tyler certainly did. He called me that afternoon, his voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Sorry about the wedding fund, sis. But hey, at least you don't have to stress about a big fancy party anymore, right? Small weddings are more meaningful anyway." I could hear the mockery in his tone. My mother started lecturing me about gratitude later that week. "You should be thankful for what you have, Natalie. Some people don't even get to have weddings. And Marcus seems like a practical man. He'll understand." I nodded and smiled and played the part they expected. But that night, I made a phone call that would change everything. I called the venue coordinator and canceled the large reception hall we had booked. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus and I completely redesigned our wedding. No debt, no begging, no waiting for money that was never really mine to begin with. We chose a small garden venue that cost a fraction of the original price. We cut the guest list from 200 to 50. We simplified everything. The dress I had picked out was beautiful, but expensive. I found an equally stunning one for half the price. The elaborate catering package became an elegant but modest buffet. The expensive photographer was replaced by a talented friend who owed me a favor. Every decision was made quietly, without drama, without announcing my plans to my family. This was the first move of a much longer game I was beginning to understand I needed to play. Then, 3 weeks after pulling the wedding funds, my mother called with a request. "Natalie, honey, I need you to help me organize some family financial documents like you usually do. Can you come over this weekend?" I paused, smiled. "Of course, Mom. I'd be happy to help." That Saturday, I arrived at my parents' house with my laptop and organized folders, just like I had done countless times before. My mother hugged me at the door. "You're such a lifesaver, Natalie. Your father and I just can't keep track of everything like you do." I had been helping manage their financial paperwork since I was 22 years old. Estate documents, insurance policies, investment accounts, tax records. They always said it was because I was so good with details, but really it was because neither of them wanted to deal with it. I sat at their dining room table and began sorting through the massive pile of documents they had accumulated. Bank statements, account transfers, loan papers, investment portfolios. Everything was disorganized, as usual. But this time, I wasn't just organizing. I was reading. Really reading. And within an hour, I noticed something odd. There were multiple transfers to Tyler over the past 3 years, all labeled as temporary family assistance. Thousands of dollars. All technically legal. All hidden behind vague language that made them easy to overlook. I spent the next several hours creating a detailed spreadsheet of every financial transaction I could find. The pattern was stunning in its consistency. Money that had been earmarked for specific purposes, college funds, retirement contributions, emergency savings, had been quietly redirected to Tyler. Sometimes the amounts were small. Sometimes they were substantial. But they all had one thing in common. They were never paid back. My parents had been covering for Tyler's poor financial decisions for years, and they had done it by pulling from every other source available, including, I realized, what should have been my wedding fund. But here's what shocked me most. I had been the one keeping their entire financial system running. I was the one who remembered deadlines, filed extensions, tracked account numbers, coordinated with their accountant. Without me, this whole system would collapse. And they had no idea how much power that gave me. I saved everything to an encrypted file on my laptop. Then I continued organizing their papers like nothing had changed. For the next month, I kept helping my parents exactly as I always had. I sent reminders about upcoming bills. I organized their tax documents. I scheduled appointments with their financial advisor. But now I did something different. I documented everything. Every email I sent. Every reminder I gave. Every deadline I tracked. Every conversation we had about their finances. I created a detailed log with dates, times, and specific actions. I wasn't planning to use this documentation against them. I was creating a clear record of exactly how much I had been doing so that when I eventually stepped back, there would be no confusion about why things fell apart. My parents and Tyler continued to underestimate me completely. My mother would thank me for being such a helpful daughter. My father would pat my shoulder and say I was really good at this stuff. Tyler would occasionally make jokes about me being the family secretary. None of them realized they were watching me build an exit strategy right in front of their eyes. 6 weeks before my wedding, Tyler made a move that would accelerate everything. He showed up at Sunday dinner with a new demand. "Mom, Dad, I need to access some money early. I've got this investment opportunity with a buddy of mine. Tech startup. I can't miss it. I need about $15,000 within the next 2 weeks." My parents exchanged nervous glances. My mother turned to me. "Natalie, honey, can you help us figure out where we can pull that from? You know our accounts better than we do." This was the moment. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. For years, I had made their financial chaos work. I had found solutions, moved money around, made recommendations that kept everything flowing smoothly. They expected me to do it again. I set down my fork and looked directly at Tyler.
No.
The single word hung in the air like a thunderclap. My mother blinked. What? I said no. I'm not helping with this. Tyler's face flushed red. My father leaned forward. Natalie, we're just asking for your help looking at the numbers. And I'm declining to provide that help, I said calmly. The room fell silent. The next morning, my mother called me before 8 o'clock. Her voice had an edge I rarely heard directed at me. Natalie, we need to talk about last night. That was extremely disrespectful. I wasn't being disrespectful, I replied calmly. I was setting a boundary. I'm not comfortable helping facilitate another large transfer to Tyler when none of the previous ones have been repaid. That's between your father and me and your brother. It's not your business. Then you don't need my help managing it. Silence. When she spoke again, her tone had changed. It was softer, more manipulative. Sweetheart, you're getting married in a few weeks. This is supposed to be a happy time for our family. Don't ruin it by causing problems. You know how important family harmony is, especially before a wedding. The message was crystal clear. Fall in line or face consequences. I'm not causing problems, Mom. I'm just not available to help with Tyler's request. You and Dad can handle your own finances. We've always relied on your help. I know. And I'm stepping back from that role. Her voice hardened. We'll talk about this later. But think carefully about what you're doing, Natalie. Family is forever. Don't ruin everything over pride. That night, I made my decision. I had been walking a tightrope my entire life, trying to be the good daughter, the helpful one, the one who never caused trouble. And where had it gotten me?
Used.
Overlooked. Manipulated. I wasn't going to burn bridges with my family. I wasn't going to send angry emails or make dramatic accusations. But I was going to quietly, professionally, completely extract myself from the role I had been playing. Over the next 2 weeks, I began the process. I sent my parents a detailed email explaining that due to my upcoming wedding and changing life circumstances, I would be transitioning all financial management responsibilities back to them. The email was polite, professional, and completely neutral in tone. I included a comprehensive document outlining every account, every deadline, every contact, and every responsibility I had been handling. I scheduled a meeting with their financial advisor and formally removed myself from all communication channels. I contacted their accountant and requested that all future correspondence go directly to my parents. I did everything properly, with full documentation, complete transparency, and professional courtesy. But I was unmistakably, irreversibly stepping away. My parents didn't understand what was happening at first. My mother called the email, a bit dramatic, but thanked me for the detailed notes. My father said he appreciated the organization, but seemed confused about why I was making such a big deal out of it. Tyler didn't even acknowledge it. None of them realized that they had just lost the invisible backbone that had been holding their financial life together for 6 years. They didn't know that I had been the one tracking their property tax deadlines, reminding them about insurance renewals, catching billing errors before they became problems, coordinating between their various financial institutions. They thought it was easy. They thought anyone could do it. They were about to learn otherwise. Meanwhile, my wedding preparations continued smoothly. Marcus and I had everything under control. The small venue was perfect. The guest list included only people who genuinely supported us. The budget was tight but manageable, and most importantly, we owed nothing to anyone. No debt, no strings, no manipulation. Just our day, our way, our choices. As my wedding date approached, my family's behavior shifted. The pressure intensified. My mother started making passive-aggressive comments about disappointing the family and letting people down. Tyler made jokes about my budget wedding and how embarrassing it must be to downsize so dramatically. My father remained mostly silent, but his disapproval was obvious in his body language and clipped responses. They invited themselves to a dress fitting without asking. They criticized my choice of flowers. They questioned every decision Marcus and I made. The message was clear. They were tightening their control, trying to make me feel small, trying to push me back into the compliant role I had always filled. But something had changed in me. Their comments rolled off without sticking. Their criticism felt hollow. Their attempts at manipulation were transparent. I had seen behind the curtain, and I couldn't unsee it. 2 nights before the wedding, my mother called with an invitation. "Your father and I want to take you and Marcus to dinner tomorrow night. Pre-wedding celebration. Just family." I knew what it really was. A final attempt to bring me back in line. The restaurant my mother chose was expensive, the kind of place meant to impress. Tyler arrived late, as always. We sat around a table heavy with tension and unspoken expectations. Everyone was acting like this was a reconciliation dinner, a chance to smooth over recent awkwardness and celebrate my upcoming marriage. But I could feel the real purpose lurking beneath the surface. Appetizers arrived. Small talk was made. Then my mother cleared her throat. "Natalie, your father and I have been thinking. We know things have been tense lately. We want you to know we love you, and we're proud of you." Silence. Everyone waited. They expected me to apologize. They expected me to thank them for their conditional affection. They expected me to fall back into pattern. Instead, I set down my water glass, folded my hands on the table, and looked at each of them in turn. "I have something to say." My mother smiled. My father nodded. Tyler smirked. They had no idea what was coming. I took a breath and began. "The wedding is fully paid for." The words landed like stones dropping into still water. My mother's smile froze. My father's eyebrows rose. Tyler's smirk faltered. "What?" my mother asked. "The wedding. It's completely paid for. Every expense. The venue, the catering, the flowers, the photographer. Everything. Marcus and I handled it ourselves. No loans. No debt. No help needed." "But how?" My mother's voice was sharp with confusion. "We downsized, we budgeted carefully, and we made it work. The wedding is smaller than originally planned, but it's beautiful, and most importantly, it's ours. We don't owe anyone anything." My father leaned back in his chair, studying me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Tyler looked annoyed. "So, what? You want a medal for paying for your own wedding? Most people do that." "I'm not looking for recognition," I said calmly. "I'm simply stating a fact. And there's something else I need to say." My mother's face had gone pale. She was starting to understand. "What else?" I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. Inside were copies of all the financial documentation I had created, the transition plan, the timeline, the professional handoffs. Everything. As I explained in my email, I've transitioned all family financial management back to you and Dad. This folder contains everything you need: account information, deadlines, contact numbers for your advisor and accountant, passwords for online systems, and a detailed explanation of what needs to be monitored monthly. My father took the folder and opened it slowly. "Natalie, we talked about this. This seems excessive." "It's thorough," I corrected. "I wanted to make sure you had everything you needed to manage your own finances going forward. Why are you really doing this?" Tyler interrupted, his voice aggressive. "Because it's not my job," I said simply. "I've been managing your parents' financial paperwork for 6 years. I did it because I wanted to help and because they asked. But I'm starting my own family now, and it's time for me to focus on my own life. This isn't complicated. It's just a boundary." My mother's hands were shaking. "You're abandoning us." "I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm stepping back from a role I should never have been in to begin with. You're both adults. You can handle your own finances. And if you need help, there are professionals who can assist you." Silence. Then my mother's composure shattered completely. "How dare you do this right before your wedding? After everything we've done for you. After we raised you and supported you and gave you everything." Her voice was rising, drawing stares from other diners. "You pulled my wedding fund," I said quietly. "Yes, for your brother, who needed it more. Tyler is 31 years old and has never held a job longer than 18 months. He has no savings, no retirement account, and no plan. You've been covering his expenses for a decade. Tyler slammed his hand on the table. You don't know anything about my life. I know exactly what I've seen in your parents' financial records. The transfers. The loans that were never repaid. The opportunities that never materialized. My father's face had turned red. That's private information. That you asked me to organize, I countered. I didn't go snooping. I was doing exactly what you asked me to do. And in the process, I saw the pattern. Tyler makes bad decisions, you bail him out, and everyone else is expected to understand and accommodate. My mother was crying now. We're your family. You're supposed to support us no matter what. I stood up from the table, and Marcus stood with me. I love you all, I said, and I meant it. But I'm done enabling a system that doesn't work. I'm done being the silent fixer who makes everything run smoothly while being treated like I'm less important than Tyler. I'm done sacrificing my own needs to accommodate his irresponsibility. This isn't about revenge or punishment. It's about self-respect. If you walk out that door, don't expect us at your wedding, my mother said, her voice breaking. The threat hung in the air. I picked up my purse. That's your choice to make. The invitation stands regardless. But I'm not begging anyone to celebrate with me. Marcus and I are getting married with, or without your presence. And we're going to be happy. I hope you'll be there, but if you're not, we'll be okay. Tyler laughed bitterly. This is insane. You've lost your mind. I've found my spine, I corrected. Then Marcus and I walked out of the restaurant together, leaving my family sitting in stunned silence at the table. The entire drive home, my hands shook. But underneath the nerves was something else. Something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. My wedding day arrived exactly 1 week later. It was a perfect September morning, clear and warm with just enough breeze to keep everyone comfortable. The small garden venue was decorated with simple white flowers and elegant greenery. 50 people filled the chairs, people who genuinely cared about Marcus and me, friends who had supported us, colleagues who celebrated our happiness. My parents didn't come. Tyler didn't come. Their absence was noticeable, but not devastating. My Aunt Patricia was there, my mother's older sister, who had always been kind to me. She hugged me before the ceremony and whispered, "I'm proud of you." Several cousins attended, along with friends from college and work. Marcus's family was warm and welcoming. His mother had tears in her eyes throughout the ceremony. The wedding itself was everything I had hoped for. Intimate, meaningful, joyful. No drama, no manipulation, no hidden agendas. Just two people who loved each other, making promises in front of people who actually cared. The reception was small but perfect. Good food, heartfelt toasts, genuine laughter. I danced with my new husband under string lights as the sun set behind the mountains. For the first time in months, I felt completely at peace. We returned from our honeymoon 3 weeks later to find several voicemails waiting. The first was from my father, his voice strained. "Natalie, we need to talk. There's been some confusion with the property tax payment, and we're not sure what happened. Can you call us back?" The second was from my mother, more panicked. "The insurance company is saying our policy lapsed. We don't understand. Can you help us figure this out?" The third was from Tyler, angry and entitled. "You need to call Mom and Dad back. Whatever game you're playing isn't funny anymore." I listened to all of them, then set my phone down. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "What do you want to do?" I thought for a moment. Nothing. Not yet. Over the next 2 weeks, the calls became more frequent. Their financial system, which I had been quietly maintaining for years, was beginning to unravel without me. Deadlines they didn't know existed were being missed. Bills they didn't know needed attention were accumulating late fees. Renewals they hadn't tracked were expiring. The comfortable autopilot they had been living on was suddenly gone, and they were discovering just how much work it had taken to maintain. Finally, my mother called with a different tone in her voice. Not angry. Not demanding. Desperate. "Natalie, please. We need your help. Just this once. We're drowning here, and we don't know what to do." I took a breath before responding. "What specifically do you need help with?" "Everything. The property tax, the insurance policies, there's something from the IRS we don't understand. Your father is having panic attacks. Can you just come over and help us sort this out? Mom, I gave you all the information you needed. All the contacts, all the deadlines, all the documentation. Everything is in the folder I provided. It's too much. We can't keep track of it all. Then you need to hire a financial manager. There are professionals who specialize in this kind of thing. I can send you some recommendations. Silence. When she spoke again, her voice was small. Tyler's investment fell through. He lost everything he put into it, and now he's asking for more money. We don't know what to do. That's between you and Tyler, I said gently but firmly. I'm not involved in those decisions anymore. Please, Natalie. We're your family. I know, and I love you, but I'm not coming back to fix this. The next call came from Tyler himself 2 days later. His voice was different, stripped of its usual arrogance. Nat, I messed up. The investment was a scam. I lost everything. Mom and Dad are freaking out, and I don't know what to do. Part of me felt genuine sympathy. Part of me felt vindicated. All of me felt tired. I'm sorry that happened to you, Tyler. That's really hard. Can you help me figure out what to do next? You're good at this stuff. No, I can't. But I can give you the name of a financial counselor who works with people in debt. They can help you create a repayment plan and budget. That's it? That's all you're going to do? That's all I can do. This is your situation to resolve, not mine. You're really just going to abandon the whole family? I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm refusing to enable dysfunction. There's a difference. He hung up without saying goodbye. Later that week, my parents called together, both on speakerphone. They asked me to come over just to talk. I agreed, but I told Marcus beforehand, I'm not going back, no matter what they say. I sat in their living room, the same room where my mother had announced she was pulling my wedding fund 3 months earlier. Everything looked the same, but the atmosphere was completely different. My parents looked exhausted. My mother's eyes were red from crying. My father looked older than I remembered. We owe you an apology, my father began. We didn't realize how much you were doing. We took you for granted. My mother nodded. And we're sorry about the wedding money. We made a mistake prioritizing Tyler's requests over your needs. We see that now. I sat quietly, waiting. We were wrong, my father continued, about a lot of things. The favoritism, the expectations, the way we treated you compared to your brother. You deserved better. My mother reached across the coffee table. Will you come back and help us? Please? We need you. This was the moment I had been preparing for. I took a breath. I accept your apology. I appreciate you saying those things. But I'm not coming back to manage your finances. That chapter is closed. But we admitted we were wrong, my mother said, confusion in her voice. And I'm glad you can see that. But an apology doesn't obligate me to return to a role that was never healthy for any of us. I stood up to leave. I love you both. I want us to have a relationship. But it needs to be different going forward. I'm not your financial manager. I'm not Tyler's backup plan. I'm your daughter, and that's the only role I'm willing to fill. My mother started crying again. We never thought you'd actually leave. You were always so reliable, so steady. We thought you'd always be there. That's exactly the problem, I said softly. You thought you could treat me however you wanted, and I'd always just take it. You thought my compliance was unconditional. It's not. I walked to the door, then turned back. The resources I sent you are good. Use them. Hire help if you need to. Figure out a new system that doesn't depend on me. And maybe, eventually, work on figuring out why you thought it was okay to use one child to subsidize the other. I left their house and didn't look back. 6 months later, my life looked completely different. Marcus and I had settled into married life beautifully. My career was thriving. I had set clear boundaries with my family and, surprisingly, they were mostly respecting them. My parents hired a financial manager. Tyler got a stable job and started therapy. One afternoon, I received a letter in the mail. My mother's handwriting on the envelope. Inside was a long note. She wrote about how much they had struggled after I stepped back. How they finally understood how much I had been carrying. how they realized the imbalance between how they treated Tyler and how they treated me. But then, at the end of the letter, the tone shifted. She asked if I would consider coming back, just occasionally, to help with major decisions. She suggested we could find a middle ground that worked for everyone. She wanted me to help manage Tyler's new budget since he was trying so hard to turn his life around. I read the letter twice, then set it on my desk. Marcus came in and saw my expression. "What are you going to do?" he asked. I looked at the letter one more time. The apology was real. The recognition was genuine. But the request at the end revealed the truth. They still wanted me to fix things. They wanted me back in the role, just with better packaging. I picked up the letter, folded it carefully, and filed it away without responding. Some things don't require an answer. Sometimes silence is the most powerful response of all. My mother eventually learned what I had known all along. I didn't destroy them. I simply stopped holding them up. And that was enough.